Hello and welcome to today's tutorial. We're going to be drafting a basic pencil skirt. So these are just the basic supply that I need, my ruler, my tape, and I also have the measurements that I'm going to be working with today. So let's get to it. Alright, so the first thing I want to do is go ahead and write those measurements on my pattern paper. I just like writing it on my pattern paper so that way I know what I'm working with, because sometimes I tend to forget. So the waist I'm working with is 28, the hip 38, the hip line is 8, and because I don't have enough pattern paper, I decided to make the length 20 inches. And also for this measurement, like we all know, the waist and the hip, we're going to be dividing it by 4 because it's a circumference. And I'm going ahead to mark my waist measurement here. And I'll be adding 2 inches for seam allowance. So that's 28 divided by 4. We have 7 and I added 2 inches seam allowance. And then I'll go ahead and mark the hip line, and the hip line is that vertical distance from your waist to the fullest part of your hip. For this pattern, mine was 8. So go ahead and mark your hip line and square that out, because we're going to be putting our hip measurement on that hip line. And then I'm going ahead to also mark the length of the skirt. Like I said, because I didn't have enough paper, I'm just going to use 20 inches. And I'm adding 2 inches for seam allowance. And then I'm coming back to that hip line because we need to put our hip measurement. The hip I'm working with is 38 divided by 4, that's 9.5, and I'm adding 2 inches seam allowance. For this pattern I did mark 9 because I wanted it a little bit tight, but it should be your hip measurement divided by 4. And then now we're going to go ahead and mark the dots. For the dots, we're using our bust span measurement, and I'm going to be doing another video to really explain how to get that. So for this, my bust span is 8 divided by 2, that's 4, and I went ahead and added 1 inches to it. And I'm also going to be replacing that on the seam allowance, adding extra inch to the seam allowance. So now we need to work on our dots. So you're just gonna get the midpoint of that 1 inch that you mark. And for the front of for the front pattern of the skirt, I love to use 4.5 for my dots. So I'm just drawing a straight line down, and then I'm joining it with the other line. Alright, so now we're gonna go ahead and connect the line from the waist to the hip. I'm using my hip curve for this, but if you don't have a hip curve, you can use a ruler. And because this is a pencil skirt, we're gonna be deducting 1 inch from the hem line, because you want that pencil silhouette. And then we're going to be connecting that line to the hip. And there we have it. We have the pattern for the front. I'm just gonna go ahead and trim off the excess pattern papers that we don't need, so we can have our pattern, just that pattern. So for the back pattern, the only difference is we're gonna be adding a zipper at the back, and the length of the dart is a little bit longer. So in this, I'm just using my front pattern to trace out the back pattern, and I'm adding a 1-inch zip allowance, and I'm also marking the point of my darts before I take out the front pattern. So using the front pattern as a guide, I'm just gonna cut out the pattern for the back. So the length for the dart that I'm using for the back is 5 inches, and basically we're doing the same thing we did at the front. The only difference is just the length of the dart. So there you have it, the pattern for the front and the pattern for the back. For the front, we're going to be cutting it on fold, and the back, we're going to be cutting 2 parts because of the zipper we're adding. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and share if you like this video. Bye.